So it appears, Kelly, all of our elevator-related delays are out of the way. Montana State's offensive coordinator, Taylor Housewright, is who we're told was stuck in the elevator. And here comes the kickoff. We'll see how the ball travels today. That'll be interesting in the cold. How players are able to run, pass as well. And a touchback gets things started as South Dakota State opens up on offense. This year they won the Missouri Valley Football Conference, got their first #1 ranking ever, and a school record 12 wins, all since that Week 1 loss against Iowa, their only defeat of the year, and they're led by the sophomore Mark Gronowski. They're coming off a 42-21 victory against Holy Cross last week. Final score doesn't really tell the full story. That game was tied at 21 heading into the fourth quarter. And the first of many runs we expect to see today. Great push for Isaiah Davis, getting a couple yards shy of midfield. Callahan O'Reilly finally makes the tackle. Gain of 22 yards for number 22, Isaiah Davis.
And it didn't take long for us to see the calling card for South Dakota State. Isaiah Davis is a downhill guy, and the goal is to get his shoulders going downhill. A lot of times you'll see him out of the pistol formation, and you have road graders up front that are very athletic and great at getting to that second level.
Big bodies along the offensive line, all but one checking in at 300 pounds. Tucker Kraft coming around the edge, the tight end, and he is into Montana State territory, an exceptionally talented tight end who's already declared for the NFL draft.
And the offensive coordinator, Zach Lujan, said that we need to get our tight ends factored into the game early. And you talked about the skill set of Tucker Kraft, and you also have Zach Hines as well. Zach Hines is essentially another offensive lineman. You'll see more touches to Kraft intentionally, just like that guaranteed touch right there.
Second down and 3 for the Jackrabbits. Gronowski, the keeper. He slips one tackle to pick up the first down. Brought down to the 40 by the safety, Rylan Ord.
And Mike, early in this one, this is going to be the difference in this year's matchup versus last season. Mark Gronowski was not there. Remember, he got hurt in that spring 21 season where the FCS played in the spring, and the Jacks got to that title game. In the first series, Gronowski goes down with an ACL, rehabbed the entire last season, and now he's back, maybe better than ever.
Thrown for better than 2,500 yards, now run for over 300 on the year. He's got Isaiah Davis, a great weapon to hand it off to, and he picks up about 3 yards on first down.
What South Dakota State does offensively, we talked about the run game, and that's really what their calling card is. Their favorite formation is what they call the bunch set, and they run a concept in the run game called duo, which essentially you have double teams on the line of scrimmage, and you just move people off the ball, and then those offensive linemen are athletic enough to then engulf that second level.
Hines, the tight end, in motion off to the right side. Gronowski to throw for the first time. He's got it over the top, and it's a South Dakota State touchdown to Tucker Kraft. 36 yards, the strike right through the heart of the Bobcats defense.
And that's where this run game really pays its dividends. It's not only on the ground, Mike, but it's also in the air off of play action to a tight end like Kraft. You see him right here. It's the play action pass because the run game has already been violent. It's already been downhill. You can see the safety, number 6, step up, Miles Jackson, and just takes a look at that tight end, loses disciplined eyes, and the tight end is by him in a heartbeat.
Hunter Dustman for the extra point, and that is good. One drive and one score for South Dakota State. They have put up points in bunches, in excess of 40 the last couple weeks, and a touchdown to start.
And it didn't take very long. The violent run game, and then the tight end that's NFL bound gets down the middle of the field.
Kick is a short one, just inside the 20-yard line, and it'll be across the 30 on the return of 14 yards by Derek Snell, one of the tight ends playing up in that formation. Here's Tommy Mellott, the pride of Butte, Montana, a sophomore team captain. He's not scared of the cold, Kelly. He's got no sleeves under the jersey.
Touchdown Tommy says no to the sleeves. That's an early development. And he was throwing the ball well in pregame warm-up. So we'll see how that part of the game plan goes today for Tommy Mellott.
Well, they start there with Sean Chambers ready to take the snap. So the two-quarterback system is in effect from snap number 1. And Chambers, the former Wyoming Cowboy, runs off to the left side with a shoulder-lowering run to get a couple yards.
And a lot of times when they're both in the game, Chambers will be the quarterback and Mellott is offset to Chambers, but a lot of injuries at University of Wyoming and followed his offensive coordinator eventually in Brent Vigen is exactly why Tom Chambers is in Bozeman currently.
Mellott flip-flops Chambers and a couple of tight ends as well. Throws here. And a falling grab made by Willie Patterson, their leading receiver on the year. One of the things we're going to be keeping an eye on throughout the course of this game because of the cold weather is just how many times these teams throw the ball. Last week, they only passed 11 times.
And anybody that handles the ball is going to be interesting. As the game goes on and your hands get cold, the feel of the football changes, plus the physics of the football itself changes. It gets harder and it gets a little film on it also.
Third down and short. Mellott is in the slot. This could be a run from Chambers. Indeed it is, right between the tackles, and he gets leveled by Isaiah Stallbird after a first down run.
Well, we didn't see a lot of this two-quarterback system last week because Montana State was in control of that game with William and Mary very early. But we're seeing it now, and Chambers a lot of times will be the quarterback, but right now they're changing. But you see zone reads, and when the quarterback that gets the ball gets to the edge, it becomes a multi-level RPO on the outside. Pretty intriguing.
It's Mellott. He spins away from two defenders, but he's brought down right at the end of the play. Adam Bach, the middle linebacker, just back from injury, already making an impact.
And the Jacks defensive coordinator, Jimmy Rogers, said that the thing that we have to do is we have to pressure the decision-making point. So all of this kind of spread triple option mentality, you have to attack the mesh point and speed up the quarterback's decision-making.
Mellott on the run. He can throw it here. He does. And a ping-ponging catch. Nicely done by Cleveland Thomas, who took 2 hits on his descent. A 19-yard catch for the first down.
And this is what we saw in the clip that we showed in our open. When Tommy Mellott gets the ball on a true quarterback zone read from Sean Chambers, it becomes a run-pass option on the outside, and Mellott completes the pass right there.
Mellott to throw under heavy pressure into single coverage. Oh, what a catch by Thomas inside the 10-yard line. Flag is down as he reached out the right hand to make that catch. And 34 yards.
And this is going to be pass interference on South Dakota State, but this is how the game changed in last year's matchup.
Defense, number 7. Penalties decline. Result of the play is
You know, this was a back and forth game, Mike, until Tommy Mellott and his receiving core started to make the 50-50 plays. You see the pressure that South Dakota State tries to get on Mellott, but if you don't get there, this is the result. Man-to-man on the back end, and Thomas makes a spectacular catch.
Chambers is to the right of Mellott. Isaiah Ifanse, the school's all-time leading rusher, to his left. Pick your poison. And the Jackrabbits take their first time out here with 8:56 left in the opening quarter, trying to catch their breath and figure out what's coming. Well, we had college basketball before us and a national championship tonight. The NCAA women's volleyball matchup this evening, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, right here on ESPN2 and the app. And And coverage starts with the pregame studio show, 7:30 Eastern. It's Texas and Louisville. The Cardinals, winners in 5 sets against Pitt in the semis, looking to be the first ACC school to win an NCAA volleyball championship. First and goal here from Montana State, looking to settle the score with South Dakota State getting a touchdown on its first drive. Tommy Mellott is going to keep those hands warm as long as he can before that snap comes his way. He gives it up. Afonso off to the right side, and his knees meet the turf at about the 2-yard line.
And a really interesting formation and a talented backfield when you have Tommy Mellott and Chambers back there as QB1 and QB2, and who's going to take the snap. But Afonso is healthy again, and he's one of the best running backs at this level when he's healthy. A menagerie of knee injuries. He didn't play all of this season, but he has a really explosive first step, and you're starting to see that again out of that young man.
Chambers slides over. He takes it, plunges up the middle, and he's got his legs cut out from under him inside the 1-yard line. 3rd and goal coming after the tackle from Reese Winkleman, who comes off the field here.
So, Mike, what you have to discern as a defense is when 2 quarterbacks are in the game is who's the actual quarterback and who is the running back, who's going to handle the ball, who isn't, and who's the biggest run threat. The bottom line is Mellott and Chambers both can run the football equally well.
Chambers sneaks to the line, tries to sneak his way into the end zone. Jackrabbits were ready and waiting, and he is marked short. There was deception on that play, Kelly, with Mellott looking to the sideline as the decoy.
Montana State tried to sell the fact that they were confused. They didn't know what was going on. Tommy Mellott looks to the sideline. He calls Chambers over, and it's a quarterback sneak with a big physical quarterback, but South Dakota State was not fooled whatsoever.
They need one more stop to keep the Bobcats out of the end zone on the first drive of the day. Chambers by himself gives it one more shot and falls across the goal line. Touchdown Montana State on 4th and goal.
And with that call right there, Mike, I get the feeling that both coaches, by the way this game starts, think there's going to be maybe more points scored than they anticipated. Montana State isn't really built to play catch-up. And so 4th and inches is a great time to go for it when you have a quarterback like Chambers who has a feel in the tackle box to find a little bit of softness, in this case getting in the end zone.
Ball gets loose on the play. Blake Glessner, the kicker, is trying to run it, and he gets pushed out of bounds around the 5-yard line. Bryce Layton, the punter, was the holder on that play. It's difficult to get your hands on a ball cleanly today, and he feels the impact there. So still a 1-point game as Montana State gets into the end zone.
And eventually Chambers finishes it off, but it's going to be a clown show at times with anybody that has to handle the football.
We'll get our red noses out. Brookings, South Dakota. And you know what? You're in the right place if you want to dress up as Santa today, because that's probably going to keep you warmer than most places, although playing a brass instrument today may be akin to the flagpole dare in A Christmas Story. Only time will tell as the day gets chillier as we go along. Jaden Yankee on the return after the ball slipped out of his hands, gains the 20-yard line. And let's go down to Taylor Davis on the field.
Yeah, like you said, Mike, the brave and the bold, and that is I down here on the field. We're right at 8 degrees right now. Feels like -12 with wind gusts up to 20 miles per hour. And as you can see behind me, a lot of the guys are having to stay in front of heaters. They've got blankets and coats all over the sideline. Now, the grounds crew has done a great job clearing the field. It's been a several-day process, but something both teams are having to keep in mind is traction, trying to keep their footing on an icy turf, as well as ball security. Kelly, you mentioned the differences that this adds, along with the grip. A lot of defensive coaches emphasizing that in tackles.
Amar Johnson gets his first carry of the day. Kelly, what's the ball like today on a day where it's so cold?
Well, it's progressively worse, and my question for Taylor is to see if on the sideline they're actually taking care of the balls in some form, if they have some type of a heating element for the balls that are not in the game. And then as a player, you lose feeling in your extremities, in your fingertips, especially with those that are handling the football. You don't feel the ball as well as you normally do, and that obviously could create ball security issues.
Two running backs in the backfield. It's a throw to Jaden Yonke, the senior, who's caught 6 touchdowns this year. That's a first down and a gain of 18.
And that's a great look at kind of the staple in the run-pass option pass game. You fake it inside. You have a second running back in Isaiah Davis pulling around and blocking the in-man on the line of scrimmage. But what the quarterback is trying to do is invite the second-level defender up to get the wide receiver just in behind him, has happened right there.
Gronowski completes 65% of his passes. Not good on that one, though. Too tall for the 6'5" Tucker Kraft, who, as we mentioned, has declared for the NFL draft. Did that before the start of the postseason in a way that he said, I'm getting this out of the way. It's not going to be a distraction for me throughout the playoffs.
And once again, the play-action pass, you can see those second-level defenders are kind of flowing up to Isaiah Davis as that mesh point. Gronowski stuck the ball in his belly. That's all the time that's needed for the tight end to sneak in behind them. And that ball was an errant ball. And again, the feel of it when you're trying to spin it as a quarterback is pretty difficult.
Right up to the line, and Gronowski keeps to midfield, picks up 4.5, maybe 5 yards there on second down and 10.
That was an interesting play. I think that was Gronowski just seeing the fact that the center was uncovered in the middle of the second level. The linebacker kind of slid wide as well, so he just gets underneath the center. It's kind of just a two-man play. He lets the center know that I'm now underneath, I'm not in shotgun, and you run a quarterback sneak and get to third and manageable.
Third down and 6. Everybody on defense within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. Gronowski, keeper, right to the first down marker. The initial spot is at the marker, and it is a South Dakota State first down.
Mike, we talked about this on the open as I watched the game from a year ago. This was what was missing for South Dakota State, the quarterback run game that they had the previous spring with Mark Gronowski. He was a true freshman. He was an MVP and then got hurt.
Davis, a yard through the middle. South Dakota State, Kelly, played 25 games in 2021, incredible. 10 in that delayed season in the spring, 15 in the fall. They also lost both of their coordinators from last year as well. But when Gronowski was out in that latter season of 2021, he was with Chris Oladokun, as we mentioned, on the Chiefs practice squad. They'd sit down together twice a week outside of what they were expected to do to watch film. And Gronowski learned how to observe the game in a different way, knowing that his number wasn't going to be called that season, but eventually that it would in the future. And here he is with a trip to the national title game on the line. They'll have third and short after the run from Amar Johnson.
Well, Mike, that time with Chris Oladokun when Gronowski was setting out last year was vital for his growth and maturity as a quarterback. And the thing that Chris Oladokun taught him, actually two things. It's first of all, how to break down tape as a quarterback, how to get the most information out of what you're seeing on the screen. But then it was this kind of the art of finding answers within the play. So many times as a quarterback, the play doesn't go as designed. You still have to make a good decision at that position.
They give it to Davis. He slips through an O'Reilly tackle, shoulders off another, and drags a third inside the red zone. That's 220 pounds of power going for 20 yards.
When you watch Isaiah Davis play, it's his effort that jumps out. It's a G scheme. The guard pulls around from left to right and leads the big back downhill. When Davis's shoulders get pointing downhill, he's a tough load to bring down, and he was not healthy in this game a year ago. And Pierre Strong was the second running back. Now with the New England Patriots, he also had the flu, so the running game was not good.
Home field advantage, another big boost for them. Davis, and now inside the 15-yard line.
Mike, we need to pay attention because even though the quarterback's in the game, he may not actually be lined up at the quarterback position. And we've already seen that Montana State will have a couple of quarterbacks in the game just as a general rule. But that time, Isaiah Davis took the direct snap as Gronowski slid off to his left side. So a little changeup in this South Dakota State offense.
A game that keeps you on your toes today here in Brookings, even if you're in the crowd and you can't feel them. Gronowski gives it off to Davis again on the 10th play of the drive, and he just keeps on falling forward.
Well, guys, just an update down here on the Montana State sideline. Quarterback Sean Chambers has actually been taken to the locker room with the training staff. No updates on what the injury is or his status for the rest of the game, but I'll keep you posted.
Thank you, Taylor. That's vital for a quarterback who, in coming here, was trying to leave behind part of his football past. 3 season-ending injuries in 4 years with Wyoming. First and goal. Gronowski to Davis, and he's down at the goal line. In between the 1-yard line and the goal line for Isaiah Davis, with the Jackrabbits looking to make it 2 touchdowns in 2 drives. They're not wasting any time getting right back to the line here. Gronowski sneaking it, and he is into the checkerboard end zone. Touchdown, South Dakota State.
And right now, certainly Montana State defensively has 0 answers for South Dakota State's run game. And I think it's first and foremost because of the addition of Mark Gronowski now being in this game. We talked about that. If you transpose his run game onto this matchup in Bozeman a year ago, that might be a completely different outcome. I think we're seeing evidence of that right here this afternoon.
That was a game where they did not score after the half. Now the 9th time this year that Gronowski has both thrown a touchdown and run for one in the same game. Gets behind Gus Miller as center, the push, and they've got the lead once again. NCAA FCS championship coverage continues with the championship game on January 8th at 2 Eastern on ABC. And for more information, go to ncaa.com, your official online home for all 90 NCAA championships.
I don't know that that guy's maybe in his right mind currently.
But he did make it on TV, so there is that. There's a payoff to it.
What is there is like a physiological reality when frostbite actually sets in to expose skin, and that guy may be reaching that point as we speak.
Part of my prep for the game this morning was looking around the world to see places that were colder than here, and it's technically summer in Antarctica, so at McMurdo Station there, the most populated place on the continent, it's about 25 degrees today. Under 10 here today as Montana State will start about their 25-yard line, and we'll go down to Taylor.
Well, guys, down here on the South Dakota State sideline, the defense really emphasizing tackling in space. Fresh off the game against Holy Cross, where quarterback Matthew Sluka rushed for 213 yards last week, and a lot of it, they said, was because lack of tackling in open space. And like coaches said to us this week, Tommy Millott is one of the best rushers they will have seen this week, and if Sean Chambers is in fact not able to go, they expect a lot of ground game from Millott.
Well, Tommy Millott has run for as many as 273 yards in a game this year. And with him in the backfield, Isaiah Ifanse, the school's all-time leading rusher. They're still in good shape after showing two quarterbacks on all but one play on that first drive. Ball is loose, and it's along the sideline where the Jackrabbits begin to celebrate. The officials sorting things out as they try to get to the bottom of that human pile. This is the type of play that even adjudicated on the field, Kelly, might have replay review written all over it, with somebody might have been out of bounds on that fumble recovery as well.
The ruling on the field is that the offensive player touched the ball while out of bounds. It is a backwards pass out of bounds, second down.
And so because Ifanse was out of bounds, the ball becomes dead when he touches it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Ifanse fumbles the ball initially, and the ball is loose. So any player at that point in time that's out of bounds and touches the ball, it becomes a dead ball. And who possesses it after that point is a moot point. And I think that's exactly what they're saying happened. So it goes back to the last team in possession before it was touched when someone lied out of bounds. And I think that's exactly what the official is getting at.
Jason Freeman, the linebacker, was the first one there. Dayton McGoy, number 0 in blue, was the second. And if this was to happen not along the sideline, you'd have to have what the rule book says is a clear recovery in the immediate and continuing action, which they did, but unfortunately, the ball being dead by them touching it out of bounds. You got to get some breaks along the way, and Montana State appears to get one there with the call on the field.
And Mike, we saw another example of the ball security issues that Taylor highlighted. You know, the feeling is different. And it's different if I turn and hand the ball to you, but when I pitch the ball to you and you have to deal with that up against hard shoulder pads and all those things, the dynamics change greatly. And there we see another look at it. So the bottom line is the ball was not possessed by anybody, and then it was touched when Ifanse was out of bounds. So the ball at that point becomes dead. It goes back to the team that possessed it last, and that was, in this case, Montana State.
Right now, Matt Overton, the referee, communicating with Michael Sechrist, the replay official, upstairs where we are as they look to get things sorted out. Most likely clock time. We got 26 seconds left in the first quarter. I think there's only been one play so far in the quarter outside of this one, an incomplete pass. That stopped the clock.
Might have been the fastest quarter I've ever been a part of. You're exactly right.
And here's the call.
After review, the ruling on the field is confirmed. It's second down.
Yeah, that was well officiated right there, because not only was the explanation good, but they got it exactly right in real time. And Ifanse was out of bounds when he touched it. It wasn't possessed, and so it goes back to Montana State.
On a 2nd and 3 for the Bobcats. Millott looking for the edge, and he's ripped down to the 30-yard line.
So what Taylor talked about with the injury apparently to Sean Chambers, things changed greatly because now the defense for South Dakota State obviously just have one quarterback to consider, and that changes the dynamics of the play calling.
Couple of 12-1 teams, both undefeated against FCS competition this year. North Dakota State awaits in the title game. Jackrabbits lead after one. Sean Chambers, one of the quarterbacks for Montana State, went to the locker room in the first quarter. He's now gingerly made his way back onto the sideline, not yet into the game. And so it remains in the hands of Tommy Malott here, 14-6. South Dakota State leading Montana State after one quarter in this second FCS semifinal game. Mike Cousins, Kelly Stauffer, Taylor Davis with you here from Dykout Stadium in Brookings, South Dakota. Third down, blitz is on. Malott with a heave, and it's out of bounds down the sideline, looking for the tight end, Derek Snell. Flag is down on the play.
Pass interference. Defense, number 2. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
That's the safety, Isaiah Stallbird.
And Isaiah Stallbird, from his safety position, he's really an outside linebacker, but even as a safety, he's going to play down in the box a lot. But that's the difference right there. When he has to cover Derek Snell, who's kind of the offensive probe to some extent. They moved the tight end, number 8, Snell, all over the place. And that time, it was a wheel route going vertical, and Stallbird gets called for the pass interference.
They've got him at safety today to help out with a depleted core in the secondary. And this play is blown dead with multiple flags in the backfield.
False start. Offense, number 75. 5-yard penalty, first down.
It's the right tackle, Jacob Kettles.
That offensive line for Montana State had to replace 4 starters coming into this season. From Montana State, Justin Perkins is the center, the only starter that returned. And I think this offense really got going when those guys up front kind of evolved into a cohesive unit the second half of the season.
They've got 1st and 15 after the penalty. Fonse off to the right side and gets about 3 yards there behind the group that has been called by their coaching staff the Don Joy Mafia. Don Joy being the brand name of the knee braces that they wear to help support their big frames. So they've taken to that very well. And behind them, this team has run for 332 yards a game. That's tops not only at the FCS level, but would be the best at the FBS level, one step up as well.
And conversely, they're playing the number 1 rush defense at the FCS level. So this is really the matchup that's probably going to determine the outcome of this game.
On 2nd and long, there is sparse running room for Afonse. Adam Bach, they say he's got the best ability on the team, came back from injury in the last game after missing 4 games. And you love a 1-versus-1 matchup, as you said.
Yeah, no question. And to get in 3rd and long is exactly the wheelhouse of South Dakota State defensively.
Malott 3 of 3. He throws into single coverage again, and it's Willie Patterson with the catch down the sideline for a Bobcats first down.
Willie Patterson outside matched up on Beenum, and this is what happened last year, and it was unbelievable how effective Malott and his group of receivers were at the 50-50 ball. And South Dakota State talked about the fact that they had to defend that really well today in this explosive area if they were going to come out on top in this one.
On first down after the 24-yard pickup, Malott gets flushed. He evades the first wave, gets back to the line of scrimmage, and really nothing more than that as Bach met him at the sideline.
And Adam Brock, you saw chasing Malott from his middle linebacker position. And Adam Brock has been dinged up. And He got his first playing time in a while last week, kind of a limited pitch count just to make sure that he was ready, and then had a great week of practice according to Jimmy Rogers, and is playing out there today. And according to that play, his leg feels pretty darn good if you can push a quarterback out on the sideline like Malott.
Another flag thrown by the referee, Matt Overton.
Substitution. Offense. 12 players in formation. 5-yard penalty. Second down.
So Brent Vigen's team here on this drive has been playing whatever down it is, usually more than 10. And a big catch by Patterson, helping to keep it alive. They've scored a touchdown. It was a dropped extra point try. That leaves them with 6 for the time being. Malott averages 7 yards a carry, tops for a quarterback in FCS, and he is swarmed and stopped. Jason Freeman, their leading tackler, coming up to hit him, and it's going to be 3rd and long again.
A stout defensive front and linebackers that clean up and make plays. And this is a quarterback design run, and there just isn't a lot there. A defensive line that does a great job of occupying at least the 5-down linemen, and then that second level just clean things up from there.
Play clock is down to 3 for the Bobcats. At 1. They just get it off in time. Malott rolls, and the play is blown dead.
Delay of game. Offense. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
Well, this is the first game on the road for Montana State since November 12th when they played at Cal Poly. It's a little bit of a different atmosphere for them after they finished undefeated at home for the 2nd straight year. Weather's not a problem. These teams know how to play in the cold. Third and 19 for a team that primarily runs the ball against a 3-man rush. They do not regain the original line of scrimmage, stopped at the 34-yard line.
And South Dakota State defensively was electing to rush 3, drop 8, anticipating the pass. In the end, it obviously was not that. Playing a little bit of field position as Brent Vigen in this second quarter, and rightly so. I think that you can keep the ball off this frozen tundra, I think, is the better part of the decision-making currently.
Bryce Layton is on to punt. There were 3 games this year he didn't punt at all. And his short kick inside the 5, swatted back out. Normally from that spot, it would be a 51-yard field goal try, but with the win today, forget about it.
That's like kicking a brick. This was close, Mike, but no go in college football. It's where the ball is.
And a touchback.
The FCS semifinals continue here in South Dakota. Now, quarterback Mark Gronowski is not the only athlete in the family. His brother Ryan is actually a Special Olympics flag football player. He was one of a few kids chosen to participate in the USA Games this past summer at the Wide World of Sports in Orlando, where he brought home the gold. Mark told me he's his biggest fan, and vice versa. He said he has learned perseverance from his brother, something that you see Mark play with out here as well, guys. just an incredible showcase of perseverance. He said his brother is at every game. He is in attendance here today, but they cheer each other on playing a game that they both love. And Mark said it's been inspiring for him to watch his brother Ryan continue to defeat odds, play the games that he loves, and all while keeping a good attitude. We are thrilled that the entire family is here, but especially Ryan. And he told Mark before the game, I'm ready to watch you play in Frisco.
Where it will be a lot warmer than the single digits we've got here today in South Dakota. So it's Mark who now has some catching up to do to his brother here today, trying to get South Dakota State to the national championship game. Amar Johnson, the running back, the catch, the first down, and a leveling tackle by Ty Okada after a 25-yard gain. And South Dakota State looking sharp here on their third drive with 2 touchdowns in their first couple of drives.
And a good job by Gronowski going through his progression and then just electing to dump the football off. And with the weather as it is and the feeling on the ball not being what you're used to, that's a really good decision by Gronowski right there.
Johnson to the sideline to catch his breath. Davis in the backfield on first down and 10 from the 41. And it's Davis with a big hole to run through, and everybody in the rearview mirror. Touchdown Isaiah Davis, 41-yard scamper to the house.
South Dakota State loves to pull offensive linemen. It's an athletic bunch, a bunch of road graders that also can pull and get to the second level. And I think you're going to see it out of the right tackle. O'Brien right here is going to pull off to the right side. Also, the uncovered center, Gus Miller, will lead it as well. And it's zone run at times to get their running back Davis downhill, but then they pull 600 pounds and create another point of attack, and Isaiah Davis does a fantastic job of fitting in behind those offensive linemen and ending up in the end zone.
Now the 9th straight game for Isaiah Davis where he scored a rushing touchdown.
Isaiah Davis is thinking of going into the warm house. I think that's what the handle was that he was opening up. They have these houses that are warmed on the sideline, and if you're not going to be used for a while, you can duck into one of them and warm up, and that might be where we find Taylor Davis currently.
So it appears as this goes to replay review, Matt Overton puts the headset on. The question is, did he drop the ball before crossing the goal line?
Oh my goodness,
and
it is going to be close.
What they're going to need to see by the letter of the law is indisputable video evidence. He may just get away with this here.
Yeah, because really the way this works is the very front of that end zone line, if you're in possession of the ball, constitutes a touchdown. And so does Davis have it just as he breaks the plane? And I think at the very least this will stand as called because there isn't, that I can see, indisputable video evidence. But why do you want to drop the football? Steve Largent taught me clear back in the day to take the football and hand it back to the official, and then you don't have to worry about replays like this. We don't have the pylon cam that's right down that end zone line. So I think it's going to be, at the very least, indisputable video evidence does not exist.
The ruling on the field stands is a touchdown.
He just gets away with it because his body helped obscure that as well. If the cameras,
that was close.
If the cameras were set up on the other side of the stadium, he might have been in a little bit of trouble there, but he's over 100 yards. He's got a touchdown in 9 straight. And South
he was
Dakota
hearing
State,
it from his quarterback right there. It's like, guy, just take it 5 yards deep into the end zone next time.
South Dakota State is cruising right now as they open up a 21-6 lead over Montana State. This was their revenge game from a year ago in Bozeman. They've got Frisco on their mind. Well, with the wind playing a factor here today, The ball can't sit on the tee by itself. And 3 touchdowns and 3 drives for South Dakota State. They kick it away again on this chilly day here in Brookings, South Dakota. As Taylor Davis will tell us, there are some ways to stay warm on the sidelines.
You betcha, and I'm finding all of them. If you've noticed these trailers on both sidelines, they're actually additional heating rooms. So they're blocked off from the outside in these trailers. The door's completely shut. There's an additional heater and chairs inside of these. Both sidelines have 2 each. But guys, I gotta be honest, in cold like this, I don't know that the temperature is much different, but it is definitely blocking them from the wind. So a lot of guys have been utilizing them, including myself.
Wise. Taylor is doing the wise thing, no question about that.
21-6, South Dakota State. Phenomenal starting field position here. But the Jackrabbits have been doing pretty much whatever they want on offense and bursting into the backfield to limit Afonse and Malott on defense.
Yeah, Adam Brock is looking like his old self. And the interesting thing is that there have been an All-American at that middle linebacker position for about 9 years straight. Adam Brock would have been that guy if he wouldn't have got dinged up. But you're seeing him healthier today, and those are the type of plays that he's able to make.
Second and 10, we still haven't seen Chambers since the opening drive of the game. It'll be 3rd down and 6 for the Bobcats.
And Jason Freeman, as you talked about, in the absence of Adam Brock, became the leading tackler coming into this game. But those 2 guys together, you have Freeman number 11, and you have Adam Brock, and then you have Williamson as well that filled in for Brock when he was dinged up. That's a talented group on the back end at that second level on this defense.
This team scores 45 points a game. Can't afford to go off the field here on 3rd down. Malott had time, and then all of a sudden it was wiped away. First on the scene was Cade Tervier, and the rest in blue followed.
There's pressure in 3rd and long situations. Montana State cannot live here. Montana State also can't live in a game where they get behind. And that's what we're seeing currently. When South Dakota State defensively gets you behind the sticks, they're complicated on that 3rd down package, and they've gotten pressure on Malott today.
Layton with his second punt. The last one netted just 14 yards into the end zone. Yankee signals for the fair catch and lets it roll down to the 14-yard line. Some pushing, some shoving. 42 yards on the punt as it goes back to the Jackrabbits on their home field. And when Brent Vigen was a senior at North Dakota State in 1997, that's when South Dakota State head coach John Stiglmeyer took over this program. 26 years later, still at the helm, and their 11th straight postseason bid. They take over after the Montana State punt, and it's Gronowski off to the left side for a hard-fought 9 yards.
And right now what South Dakota State is doing is they're just muscling up, and quarterback design runs. Isaiah Davis many times is leading. You maneuver a tight end to also get to the point of attack. And Gronowski's ability in that +1 quarterback run game is making a big difference right now.
Isaiah Davis, 8 carries, 105 yards. The plurality of that, the 41-yard touchdown run, and he's bottled up there on 2nd down. Looks like he'll be short of the sticks. Nope, they do give him the 1st down, so a favorable marking there for the junior.
And Mike, a lot of times stats don't tell the story, but one stat that's telling the story today, you have Montana State, the #1 rush team in the FCS, against the best run defense in South Dakota State at this same level. And right now, Montana State has 28 yards rushing. Conversely, this offense that's on the field right now for the Jacks are very balanced, but they're having their way on the ground currently.
Gronowski flings it up the sideline. Tucker Kraft who's already caught a touchdown, grabs that before it goes out of bounds.
Tucker Kraft will be used in the run game as a dominant edge setter. And this time he's in the backfield, and you can see him sneaking out to the left and running a wheel route on a linebacker. That's a mismatch for a tight end that has an NFL skill set, and you saw it on that play. They will be deceptive and move that tight end around, not unlike Snell is used for Montana State.
Gain of 19 on the pass there to Kraft. They had wide receivers in a triangular set off to the far right of Gronowski, which gives him some room to run off to the left as he picks up 5 yards there on the scamper. We talked a little bit about his history earlier with Taylor telling us the story about his brother, an acclaimed athlete in his own right. Zach Lujan, the offensive coordinator for the Jackrabbits, said the first time they saw him was at a very high-level school as well, North Central College in suburban Chicago, which just won the Division III title yesterday against Mount Union. Saw him at a camp there his junior year. He's from Naperville, west of Chicago. And then senior year rolled around. It was still a good fit, and it continues to be here as they're a win away from getting to the FCS title game. Johnson scrapes a flurry off the field and is about a half yard shy of the first down.
And it was kind of interesting to see how Mark Gronowski got back to this level. Remember that spring season where the FCS played after coming out of COVID. They played their season in the spring. The Jacks got to that championship game. Their quarterback goes down, rehabbed the entire year last year. So one of the big question marks is, does he get back to that MVP level? I think he's done just that.
Amar Johnson gets covered up. Sebastian Valdez, first team All Big Sky on the tackle, and it is 4th down here. 2:48 and counting. When they took over on this drive, Kelly, we said to each other, this might very well be the last drive of the half, and that was with about 6.5 minutes to go. And they're going to try and keep it going here, just a few yards into Montana State territory.
And South Dakota State is built for this. Their offensive line does a great job of being assignment sound. They hat people up and you add a tight end. Difficult to defend.
Here's Kraft. The tight end goes under center and gets the push for the first down. It's a team effort.
Well, Kraft will come in motion and do this very thing and go clear across the formation and block the end man on the line of scrimmage. This time, he goes as far as the center, takes a snap. That's not easy to do. First of all, for a guy that doesn't take a lot of snaps, A, and B, the ball doesn't feel good today. But you get the ball to your massive touch guy that you talk about a quarterback sneak at 6'6", 250.
You might only break that play out once a season, maybe once a game. Who knows? For Kraft to do it once, that's a Kraft single right there to put him under center.
Oh my goodness.
All right, we'll stop there.
I'm going to start marking these down because that's about the third one where I had to pause to know what exactly you were even talking about.
Those will be the grievances you've accumulated against me.
I don't know how I'm going to get it out of you, but somehow.
You just put me outside for 5 minutes and I'll give up.
This drive right here, right now, is like a will-breaking drive if Montana State can't find a way to get off the field.
The Bobcats will get the ball to start the third quarter, but they'd love to have the score hold. Jackrabbits have other plans. Amar Johnson with a touchdown run. 38 yards into a snowy celebration.
Montana State's defense simply has no answers for that Jacks run game. This is a very similar play that Isaiah Davis scored on, just the different direction. You get guys stretched out, and then the running back, Amar Johnson, makes a decision, plants his foot, and gets north and south.
Well, and you've got that snowbank there to disappear into after that. They had more than 100 volunteers from the athletic staff, athletes, the campus community, including the school president, to clear the field for today, and the road getting clearer to Frisco as well. My cousins Kelly Stauffer, Taylor Davis down on the field today here in Brookings, South Dakota. Single-digit temperatures, and it feels a whole lot worse than that, especially right now for Montana State, as they're down huge against South Dakota State here with 1:03 to go in the first half.
I do have kind of a postseason or a post-game plan for us.
All right.
We take one of those heated contraptions over there that Taylor was looking in, those houses. We have it drug out to the nearest lake. And we go ice fishing. We cut a hole in the bottom of it.
It's our hut.
That's our hut. That's a fishing hut. It's tailor-made for that. No pun intended. I sounded like you for a minute, Michael.
Oh, it's rubbing off. Bobcats here, if they can get something going, could double up. They're going to get the ball to start the second half, and Derek Snell goes high for the catch at midfield, the tight end with a first down grab.
And Malott is yet to have an incompletion. He's 5 for 5, but remember, that's not the way that Montana State wants to play this game. But now at 28-6, they're going to be forced to do just that.
They started the game with their two-quarterback system. Sean Chambers went to the locker room, has not returned since the first drive. A dart down the middle, pass complete to Robbie Alston. That's his first catch of the day, and all of a sudden, the blink of an eye, they're down to the 20-yard line.
Cale Reeder was the safety that just takes a bad angle. You can see him on the hash, and it just crosses his face. And Alston had a path to the end zone if he didn't slip on this frozen tundra.
45 yards in the last two plays. That was dangerous. Alston diving for it. Cale Reeder, who was burned on the last play, was there in coverage.
And maybe Montana State is finding a little something out of necessity, no less. The pass game has been working fairly well, and there is this theory, even though the footing is not great as reported by Taylor from the sideline, the offense knows where they're going, and the defense is always in reactionary mode, and maybe that will prove something good for Montana State in the second half.
They got 28 seconds and all three timeouts. Malott under pressure, slips the first, and is brought down by the second. Cade Terbier. And they got to take a timeout here to stop the clock at 21 seconds after they lose 10 yards.
And Adam Bach had pressure as well from his middle linebacker position. You can see the slant to the left of the offense, and then Bach stunts around the outside, comes clean. Malott's able to avoid that one right there, and then Terbier is just there to clean it up.
And what they've lost without having Chambers, the other quarterback, able to come back into the game is some element of deception.
I think that's what this game plan was built on. And remember, we talked about the two-quarterback system, but it really didn't come firmly into focus until the last few weeks because both quarterbacks were hurt on and off. This was the plan all season long, and then it started working well when they could keep both on the field, both healthy. But obviously, that's off the table now because of the injury to Chambers.
It's 3rd and 21 as they look for a score before the half. The Jackrabbits drop 8. Malott checks down. The tight end Snell is trying to get out of bounds. He doesn't, and the clock winds. They've got 2 timeouts left here. So they're going to let it run, interestingly, and you assume that means they'll set up for about a 37-yard field goal here to take things into halftime. Kelly, 2 timeouts. They had enough time to run
That's
another play
point.
there.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. With 2 timeouts, I think he had a chance to stop the clock, maybe take one shot into the end zone. But I think that's where a head coach who has to make that decision takes into account the conditions. Even though Malott has thrown the ball well today, the footing isn't great. It isn't how Montana State is built to throw the ball vertically in the pass game. So that may have gone into this and try to get 3 points on the board before halftime.
Blake Lesnar from 37. South Dakota State says, hey, we've got timeouts too.
Second charge timeout.
And we're going to make you think about
Dakota
it.
State. 30-second
If ever
timeout.
you're going to freeze a kicker, it's today. That's 2 for me, by the way.
That's great. I love it. Bring them on. We're in the national semifinals. You got to be at your best, Kelly.
And you see the kicker just trying to get footing as they're kind of like a chicken out scratching in the chicken yard, trying to find good footing to get this football off.
Taylor, what does the field feel like as you walk across it?
Slippery, I gotta be honest, and I'm just walking. So I'm watching a lot of these guys. Some of them are trying to run on the sideline just to gauge traction, and it's getting worse as the temperature is dropping.
Last play of the first half, Glessner from 37. And it's a low kick, but it is good. And that gives Montana State 9 at the break. They'll get the ball to start the third quarter. If there is a silver lining for the Bobcats, it's this. They scored a field goal at the end of the half. They did have more time. They elected to let it wind down a bit. And so they've gotten themselves back in it, and they get the ball here to start the second half as well, as Derek Snell makes his second kickoff return of the day, and we go down to Taylor, who hopefully is feeling all of her extremities.
Jerry's still out on that one, Mike. But I did speak with head coach Brent Vigen at the half, and he said, look, it all starts at the point of attack. He said exactly what we expected heading into this game. Their front is big, they're physical, they're athletic, and we're not matching it. He said we haven't sustained drives and we haven't tackled. Those are his 2 points of emphasis for this second half to flip the script. He wants to see the offense get out on the perimeter where possible, sustain drives, and tackle effectively. But update, guys, quarterback Sean Chambers is officially out for the game.
Taylor, thanks for that update. That's a blow to the offense for Montana State, which astonishingly only held the ball for about 90 seconds fewer than South Dakota State did in the first 2 quarters. And Kelly, you alluded to this briefly in the first half, that although coming into this game and really in the postseason, the expectation was to see 2 quarterbacks, a good portion of the year was spent just playing one.
Yeah, and that 2 quarterback system really didn't become ultra effective until the last probably third of the season. And that was the game plan today, however. We saw that from the first snap that Montana State took, and certainly that's out the window at this point in time.
So Chambers, a big absence, over 800 yards rushing, 18 rushing touchdowns, and the throw is complete to Thomas, who makes another catch. That's his 3rd of the day, and it's good for a first down.
And a saving grace may have been the fact that Tommy Malott did feel comfortable throwing the football in that first half. He's 8-9 and didn't have an incompletion until late in that first half. So I think he feels good throwing the football. His receivers seem to be getting from point A to point B well also.
First down, it's a keeper. Bach had it sniffed out. The middle linebacker all over it.
Adam Bach doesn't only have the skill set that allows him to play sideline to sideline, but he has the experience to read and diagnose so well. He's very seldom out of position. This defense for the Jackrabbits is vastly different when Adam Bach is in the middle of it.
Malott lost his footing and then lost his ability to stay upright. Reese Winkleman with a crushing blow from behind.
Well, the creativity in this offense has just gone out the window. And the injury we see, I believe, is Jason Freeman that is on the ground currently. But without Chambers in there to give that odd look with 2 quarterbacks on the field at the same time, Montana State is just trying to find something that works.
Kelly, we talked about this just before we came back to start the quarter. Their average yardage to go on 3rd down was what, about 9 yards?
Yeah, it was almost 10 yards, I think 9.6. And this isn't an offense, and not many are, work well in that long down and distance.
They go 5 wide. The Jackrabbits on 3rd and longs have only rushed 3 today. That's been effective, and it's tipped at the line of scrimmage. Caleb Sanders got a paw on it and knocks it to the ground. It's 4th down.
And there we go again at 3rd and way behind the chains, and Caleb Chambers doesn't get much of a push, but what he does extremely well is keep his eyes on the quarterback and get in the throwing lane, and that sudden left hand gets up and bats the ball down.
His defensive coordinator, Jimmy Rogers, called him a little ball of muscle. Little being a relative term when you're 270 pounds. He gets the job done. The rush almost gets there, and Yankee retreating has it at the 20-yard line on the punt return. Caleb Sanders, a lot to celebrate. Getting his hand on a 3rd down and long pass leads to a 40-yard punt, and the Jackrabbits hold to start the 3rd quarter. For more information, go to ncaa.com, your official online home for all 90 NCAA championships. South Dakota State right back to it, and a big play to start this drive. Jackson Yankee, his first touch of the day, and it's into Montana State territory. The senior wide receiver, 38 yards.
When you run for 216 yards in that first half, any semblance of play action puts so much pressure on the defensive side, and this is almost like a Tim Tebow jump pass type of look, and then the receiver Yankee comes in from the outside, and perfect timing, perfect execution by South Dakota State.
A Mahomes-esque throw on the angle there from Gronowski as he lowered the arm, and now hands off to Davis, bowling his way through defenders and staying upright to get the first down to the 30-yard line. 12 more for Davis.
And both of these teams, Mike, how many times did we hear, we have to tackle well, which seems like a keen grasp of the obvious, but both teams run the football so well. They have yards after contact, and today Isaiah Davis has been a beast when he gets going downhill.
Davis, 11 carries, 124 yards. The touchdown run that went for 41 yards as well. And he's in there along with Johnson, who's got a touchdown on the ground. Jackrabbits perfect every time they've had it today. Long way to go for a throwback across the field, and Gronowski couldn't hang on. Simple work sometimes, but fun is also always on the agenda.
And how about the trust with Isaiah Davis to call this play when your offense is really working well? You give it kind of on an outside zone run, and it's a throwback designed to go back to Gronowski from the get-go, but once again, you're asking someone that's not a thrower to throw it under these circumstances in terms of weather, and that's a tough ask, but the trust to allow Isaiah Davis to try to execute that was pretty outstanding.
Well, their offensive coordinator, Zach Lujan, he's only 27 years old. He replaced Jason Eck, who was here for 6 seasons, now the head coach at Idaho. And he told us earlier in the week, I wanted to be the next Jerry Maguire. He got a degree in economics. He thought he was going to go be a lawyer.
He certainly could have been that, by the way, after talking to him.
He is a smooth guy and certainly one of the youngest at his position around the country, and has called a phenomenal game here so far today. They've scored a touchdown on every drive. #1 team in the country going back to when they knocked off North Dakota State back in the middle of October on the road. Looking for a rematch, which would come in the championship game. The rare 3rd down, 7 yards to go, and Jackson Yankee sinking into the frozen turf makes the catch.
Well, the interesting thing is when your offense is controlling the line of scrimmage, then you can afford to try something like the throwback from the running back to the quarterback, because you feel like you can come back and pick it up anyway. And even though South Dakota State has not been in 3rd down much today, there's that trust factor that our offensive line is kind of dictating terms right now in this football game.
That was only the 4th 3rd down they've faced on the day. They're 3 of 4 converting 3rd downs. Gronowski with the inside feed, and they have found a multitude of ways to get it to their tight end, Tucker Kraft.
There are multiple ways to get it to him. The tight end that's going to carry the ball is right here, but you're going to pull two different players to the point of attack. And it's just an automatic, guaranteed touch to the guy that we want handling the football. And a move tight end that has the ability to run routes, the ability to set the edge, but the ability to carry the ball in plays like that is a huge advantage offensively.
The tight end Kraft with a touchdown catch, a sneak from under center. He took that short forward pass there. There's a flag here as the Jackrabbits were getting up to the line of scrimmage with 9:05 to go in the third.
Offside, defense, number 7, 5-yard penalty, results in the first down.
That's Ty Okada in the secondary.
How about Mason McCormick? WWE move right there. He's one of those captains on that left side, and that's the reason South Dakota State is dictating the terms, because of those two guys on the left side, and Greenfield and McCormick are just road graders.
All-Americans, first team, All-Missouri Valley Football Conference on the left side of that offensive line. It's floated to Johnson, and there's nobody in coverage. Another Jackrabbits touchdown. That one the easiest of the day.
That was way too easy. It's certainly a broken coverage, a busted coverage. The receiver on the outside just comes trafficking inside, and then the running back slips outside, and obviously not a great deal of communication going on. A lot of attention being paid to Zach Hines coming inside. The receiver sitting outside of him runs a crossing route also, and you just leak the running back out into the flat. You force the defense to communicate, and Montana State did not do it there.
Going for two here, it's Gronowski under center. Quick throw, and it works. Jaden Yonke for two. Everything South Dakota wants, South Dakota gets.
And Jaden Yonke just motions into kind of a bunch formation and gets hit. And then once again, it's a matter of communication, and all Jackrabbits on the frozen tundra this evening.
Later, John Stiglmeyer, still a head coach. He said, I wasn't smart enough to ask him why he said don't get married, because generally in coaching you are married to the profession, you are married to the team and the game. John Stiglmeyer has made a happy life out of both. And a great day for his South Dakota State Jackrabbits. Derek Snell on the return here for Montana State, barreling his way up the sideline. And this, if there's going to be a comeback, is what the Bobcats need here. 66 yards on the return, so very happy memories from those two departed members of the Montana State and South Dakota State football families.
And we see Snell on that return creating fantastic field position for Montana State, and you're right. If something good is going to happen, maybe this is the start of it here, but Derek Snell is a really good tight end, but that's the second return that we've seen today. Those really good players on both sides of the ball play special teams also at this level.
They started with two quarterbacks. Chambers hurt. It's Malott the rest of the way. He flings it for Snell, who hurdles his way across the 20-yard line. Snell, the junior out of Anchorage, Alaska, and that is Sean Chambers, who is third in FCS in rushing touchdowns, played the first drive, and now in a boot for the remainder of the game.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing to see, because Chambers was banged up at Wyoming. I think 3 major injuries, and then ended up following his coach eventually to Montana State, wanted to finish his career playing for Coach Vigen. Word has it that Sean Chambers is coming back for one more season next year, and so hopefully that young man can get healthy and remain healthy.
They'll have him, they'll have Malott, they'll have Isaiah Afonse as well. Malott running for the first down. Afonso has really been quiet today. Just 5 carries for 14 yards for their all-time leading rusher.
And Jason Freeman, we saw go off earlier. You can see him kind of letting that left arm hang just a little bit, but certainly great news that he was back on the field right there.
Midway through the third, it's Montana State looking for a touchdown since their opening drive. They got a field goal at the end of the half. It was a touchdown and a botched extra point that left them sitting at 6 points for most of those first 30 minutes. Design run for Malott, and the avenues are all shut down. It's a loss of a yard.
You know, in that play right there, Mike, just kind of transpose Sean Chambers into the backfield. You have the zone read with 2 quarterbacks, and both of them are a threat. And if the running back is actually Malott and gets to the edge, he runs a run-pass option outside. But South Dakota State doesn't really respect any other kind of edge rushers in this offense now that Chambers is not in the game.
The best rushing offense in all of FCS or FBS. Just a yard a carry tonight. And part of the problem, as Caleb Sanders there swallows up Malott, you see him scampering there like a cartoon character starting to run, and your feet don't go anywhere.
Yeah, imagine driving a car on ice, and this is what it's like playing on a field like this. And as it got colder, as the sun went down and all those things, the traction is completely degrading, as we saw in that play. But once again, there isn't respect for the threat of Willie Patterson on the fly sweep motion, potentially carrying the football. It's all on Malott's shoulders as we speak.
They need 14 here. On average, they've needed to pick up 10 yards on third down. Malott doesn't have room to run for it. He throws to the end zone, and the ball bounces away from Pickering, the tight end.
And Pickering certainly should have caught this football. That was well done by Malott. Climbs in the pocket, slides to the right, keeps his eyes downfield, and finds Pickering, and this ball just slides right through. And that's what I was talking about. The feel of the ball is completely different. A, it's hard, and B, there's this film that gathers on it when it gets hard, and you saw it right there. That's a play that Pickering normally makes without a question.
Fleshner hit from 37 to end the first half, and this try from 36 is good as well. They get a field goal, but it's touchdown territory here as they trail 36-12 on the road. It's not for the faint of heart today here in Brookings, South Dakota. With the temperature hovering near 0, we started just near 10 degrees. The feels like temperature well less than that, into the negatives. Zach Lujan, the offensive coordinator for South Dakota State today, trying to win their 13th game of the year. He's just hiding behind that pole there. There he is with the glasses on. They've got 5 drives today, Kelly. 75 yards, 79 yards, 80, 85, and 80. All of them have ended in the end zone.
Yeah, no punts whatsoever. They've been completely optional today, but again, Zach Lujan has counted on that offensive line to do their job, and man, they have been impressive.
Montana State kicking away after a made field goal. Angel Johnson on the return out across the 25. So it's cold here today, but that's not anything new for Zach Lujan, who played quarterback here and is a native of Anchorage, Alaska. When he goes home, he loves to bring members of the staff with him as well. Says his favorite thing in the world to do is go out fishing. And all of a sudden, when he brings them back home, since most people, safe to say, have not been to Alaska, he's the expert. Yeah, I know everything about snowmobiling. I know the best place to go get salmon. Loves to bring his friends and his colleagues back home.
Amazing eating demonstrated in those pictures, no doubt. Fresh salmon, go home and throw it on the grill, incredible.
He did say, though, that most TV shows that try and really encapsulate what life is like in Alaska tend to get into stereotypical stuff a little bit as well. Anchorage is 300,000 people. It's a big city, Taylor.
It is indeed. I thought it was interesting what Coach Stig told us about both of his coordinators who are first-time play callers. He said even back in spring, we were simulating game-type situations so that they could practice play calling. That was an element of their practice, even in the offseason. But quarterback Mark Gronowski talked to me about his relationship with Lujan and said, we have such a collaborative in-game workflow. He said, we are in constant communication. He likes to take my input, what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling in the moment. It's allowed both of them to grow in their respective roles.
The age factor probably a help for Lujan as well. He's only 27. His last year on the field here was 2016. From Alaska, 0 degrees in Anchorage, 6 degrees here, but it feels 17 degrees colder.
It's all about how it feels. Just ask Taylor.
Taylor Davis bravely traversing the sidelines today, heated jacket, gloves, and all. And the last note really on Lujan and Gronowski, which I think stood out, is I don't know how many 27-year-olds you've met that have quoted Bill Walsh, but he talked about his development at quarterback here as they narrowly convert that third down. The quote from Bill Walsh was, you can't win with a quarterback who does everything you tell him or who does nothing that you tell him. And Gronowski has found the happy middle in creating things on his own, even if it's not exactly what Lujan called for.
Yeah, and Zach Lujan talked about the important year last year with Gronowski learning under Chris Oladokin, and that was some of what he learned. The art of finding the answer in the play. So a quarterback is trained, and you know what perfect execution of a play looks like, but when it breaks down, where do you go for your answers? That's what that Bill Walsh quote has to do with.
And the answer at the moment is to the sideline for a timeout. Doesn't seem as though they were all on the same page looking for the play call. Well, coming up next over on ABC, it's the New Mexico Bowl. Get ready to see a lot of offense. Just because Sonny Dykes is not at SMU anymore doesn't mean that their offense still isn't fantastic. SMU against BYU, 7:30 Eastern. That's on ABC, ESPN Deportes, and the ESPN app.
Yeah, I read one of the best quotes of the year by a coach. As you see the offensive numbers right there, it's off the hook. Kalani Sitake, the head coach at BYU, said, I'm trying to wrap my mind around analytics, but this keeps sticking in my head. Data would show that if you jump out of the third floor window, you're going to get to the ground more quickly, but it doesn't mean it's the right decision. So that's where Kalani Sitake comes from, where analytics is concerned.
So he's on board with 9.8 meters per second squared and all that kind of good stuff?
I don't think he is, actually. He's all about feeling the game. He's a defensive coordinator at heart, and so it'll be interesting to see how his BYU squad does against that avalanche of yards and points that SMU throws out there.
I always think it's kind of a regressive take when coaches say, I don't care for analytics, because your conversion rate on third down is an analytic number. It's just not as advanced as some others. We always rely on numbers. At some point, if we have better information to analyze the things in front of us, it behooves us to use it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, you've been using analytics to make decisions like that. I get where you're coming from, but I'm not willing to jump out the third-story window to prove it, however.
I'm not willing to step outside at the moment.
That's true.
My cousins Kelly Stauffer, Taylor Davis, here in Brookings, South Dakota. Taylor's really the only one who has to contend with the elements, so we'll let her weigh in too.
I mean, it's just comical to me how much y'all are like, 5 minutes out there? Absolutely not. But you know what? One thing I noticed recently, Kelly, you mentioned the different feel of the ball. You have a different feel of your hands at this point, too. A lot of the guys over here on the sideline, the main thing that they're putting in front of the heaters are their hands and their feet. That's really the big difference down here. And you have to think for receivers and even the quarterbacks, everyone holding the ball, your perception of your hands at this point also starts to go. Really, everything starts to go, guys. I haven't felt anything in quite a while.
Everything starts to go. Well, it's a great point because we saw warm-ups, and Mike and I were talking about, the kicking game seems to be working well and quarterbacks seem to be throwing it well, but that degrades over time. The ball doesn't stay the same. It's harder and it has that film on it as it gets colder, but also you're not feeling your own fingertips as well as you once did.
Hunter Dustman punting for the first time today, giving way to Taco Dowler on the return, and he's up near midfield. He had an 80-yard punt return for a touchdown last week, and he's just been waiting to get going here today, but that's the first time that they forced a punt, and he returns it for 27 yards.
Yeah, and the other part of the game for Montana State that obviously hasn't gone well is just you can't kick field goals in the red zone. And you have to finish in the end zone with touchdowns when you're playing South Dakota State. And when they're running the football like they are today, it's a tough uphill climb.
The top rushing team in the country has been limited by South Dakota State to just 20 rushing yards through almost 3 full quarters. Option, it's Ifanse across midfield. Gains about 7 there on first down.
And that's the play that Ifanse fumbled in that first half. It looks like at the outset is a kind of a tight quarterback zone read. And then Ifanse bounces outside and it becomes a speed option, just simply optioning off the end man on the line of scrimmage, in that case to the left side.
Montana State scored 33 points in their first playoff game and a school record 55 last week. Most they've ever scored in the postseason. Just 12 here today through 45 minutes. And they will face another third down with the field flipped as we go to the fourth quarter. The North Dakota State Bison away. So does Frisco, Texas. 15 minutes to decide an FCS finalist. Fourth quarter back in snowy, freezing Brookings, South Dakota. The Jackrabbits jumped out to a 7-0 lead. Montana State made it 7-6, and that's as close as it's been. 36-12 here to start the fourth. That says it all. Coldest home game ever that they've had here. Previously it was 15 degrees. Today we're at 6 and it feels like -18. It's third down and 4 for Montana State and their comeback effort as we start the fourth quarter. And Tommy Malott goes backwards. Caleb Sanders was the first one there. Reese Winkleman right behind him on the trail. Fourth down. Montana State feeling the pressure build even more.
And Caleb Sanders is one of the best players in the FCS level, and the coach described him and Jimmy Rogers as twitchy, and he rarely loses a one-on-one matchup, and that time it wasn't particularly well blocked, but Caleb Sanders is going to be disruptive most of the time nonetheless.
Kelly, I know we just started the fourth quarter, but would you give consideration here for Montana State to go for it on 4th and 7?
Yeah, it would certainly.
Well, there you go. And they draw up something that fails. Instead of straight up going for it, they tried to fake the punt, and the Jackrabbits, as they have been all day, were ready.
And to your point, Mike, I rather would have my offense out there running a play with guys that are used to doing it, because what South Dakota State did right there is what's called defense safe. They kept their defense on the field, meaning we're expecting this as a possibility, and Adam Bach was right in the middle of that. It fooled absolutely nobody.
They gave it to Taco Dowler, the talented wide receiver and return specialist. But instead, they turn it over, and South Dakota State takes over near midfield. Gronowski throwing into traffic. Jackson Yonke, the receiver, and he pulls it down right in front of James Campbell for 26 more yards.
The back shoulder throw, and it was very well thrown by Mark Gronowski. Jason Yonke is just press man coverage outside. Campbell has the coverage. He gets a little bit over the top. It's so hard to defend when thrown well, and that one was by Gronowski.
Gronowski is 10 of 11 through the air, 189 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The sophomore from Naperville, Illinois, looking to pilot this team on a return trip to the national championship game. They were there in the spring of 2021, and they may well be headed back if they keep playing like this for one more quarter. First and goal after the Isaiah Davis run of 19.
Take your eyes off the football for a minute and just look at the assignments up front. You see offensive linemen covering up defensive players. It makes it easy for Isaiah Davis then just to plant his foot and get up the field. Tucker Kraft gave up a little penetration inside of him, but the offensive line is so assignment sound, they force the defensive front to beat them as opposed to get anything for free, and it's been spectacular to watch that front tonight.
On first and goal, Gronowski throws, and it's knocked away. Nicely done by Tayo Cota, leaping to deflect that pass intended for Kraft.
And that might have been the first slightly questionable decision today by Gronowski. This was well covered from the get-go, and I think Gronowski made up his mind early, expecting the defender to be slightly behind Kraft, but that was a really good defensive play, and there were other options if Mark Gronowski would have just simply hung onto the ball just a little bit longer.
Davis stopped at about the 4. Callahan O'Reilly, Sebastian Valdez team up to stop the junior running back. It's 3rd and goal. They could go back to Kraft here. Their tight end, an NFL prospect who's already declared for the draft. Davis, a phenomenal day, 158 yards on the ground, and Gronowski a threat to take it from quarterback.
Yeah, you just named them all, and this is what was missing in this matchup a year ago, was the quarterback +1 run game, along with the weapons you just talked about. Isaiah Davis was banged up, and Kraft was somewhat ineffective, and Chris Oladokin, who was the QB last year, was not a runner.
Gronowski gets flushed. He's only got 2 options to throw to, and he chooses option C on the Scantron. That's throw it away, and now they face 4th down.
That was a really good decision. Quarterback decision making, deep red zone. You talked about the 2 options. He had his big tight end in the corner of the end zone. Kenyon Bauer, the wide receiver, was also there. They're covered. You're in scoring territory. Don't force the football, especially in this situation. Good job throwing it out of the back of the end zone and giving your kicker an opportunity.
A chip shot opportunity at that for Hunter Dustman from 21 yards out. And the field goal makes it a 4-score game. South Dakota State up 39-12 over Montana State. Forget about music. Football is all about Bad Bunnies tonight. These Jackrabbits are juiced. Tough night in what feels like sub-zero temperatures for Brent Vegan and his staff. It began with a delay to our game because his offensive coordinator, Taylor Housewright, got stuck in an elevator trying to go up from field level to the booth, and they fell behind 7-0. They got as close as 7-6. This has really been a banner year for them, 12 victories. Their only loss of the year was against Oregon State very early on, and they have really been dominant. 3rd best scoring team at the FCS level as well, the top rushing team at the FBS or FCS level. And if you go beyond that, Kelly, as well, they were a better rushing team this year than all but 3 teams at the Division II or Division III level as well.
Yeah, and that really is a staple of who Brent Vigen has been for quite some time. Remember, he was a tight end at North Dakota State, then a grad assistant in Fargo, worked his way up the coaching ranks as being assistant here and there on that staff, eventually becoming the play caller, and then went to Wyoming with Craig Bowl. And so he's well suited for what he's doing, and what he's really intending to do is essentially recreate in a slightly different way North Dakota State in Montana.
And the keys to that lie in A, getting the guys who are local. Tommy Millott, a perfect example from Butte. He's a team captain only as a sophomore. And then finding the guys who are Division I talent, but maybe not the right size or the academics that the FBS schools are looking for.
Yeah, and also this day and age, you can insert a transfer here and there. What you talked about, the guys that don't cut it for one reason or another at the FBS level. As we see a quick pass over the middle to Taco Dowler, but that's the way you build your program. And there's a foundation in kind of how you have to go about it, but there's also an attitude in the things that you want your program to stand for. And it's toughness, it's physicality, it's the offensive line controlling things, and they haven't been able to do that tonight. But you're right, Tommy Millott is a great cornerstone for this program going forward, regardless of the condition of Sean Chambers.
Millott was about 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. He salvages that play to make it a plus yardage operation and gains a couple, sneaking his way through the middle. There is Sean Chambers, who joined this team from Wyoming, and unfortunately he's got a boot on his foot after 3 season-ending injuries in 4 years playing in Laramie.
And if you look at this team going forward, I mean, essentially their offense comes back intact, including Chambers. And so the 2-quarterback system will be alive and well again in Bozeman.
You got a couple of receivers who are in graduate years, Alston and Thomas, 2 of their top receivers, but this is a primarily rushing-based attack.
Yeah, and that's really an area that they could afford an upgrade. And you see South Dakota State once again getting pressure. It was the same stunt that we saw Adam Bach get pressure before. This time it's Savion Williamson. The defensive line slants to the right. The middle linebacker loops to the left and hits their mark on the quarterback, Millott.
And Millott unleashes. That's a difficult catch to make. Cleveland Thomas, as we've seen, 16 yards. Trayton Pickering, a tight end, dropped what would have been a touchdown earlier right through his hands, and this was a dart.
Yeah, and this is against drop 8. You rush 3, you drop 8. There's a ton of structure on the back end. But that ball was thrown on time to the right guy, and that's some talent that I think in the future that they need to extract from Tommy Millott. Not just the outside run ability, but his pass ability as well.
They threw into double coverage there, looking for the tight end Pickering as well, the Montana native who grew up playing 6-man football. And that was an even higher degree of difficulty.
Well, the thing, Mike, that I think has to happen going forward is Tommy Millott, as we were just talking about, has to advance as a passer. He's not really a progression type passer right now, meaning a lot of times the field is cut in half and he's looking at one guy or another, and that has to get better. You know, he was coming out of more of the Taysom Hill type of role last year until the playoffs, and then he made a magical run in the playoffs, but came up a little bit short in the national championship game.
He throws into traffic again, and this time he pays for it. Adam Bach with the interception.
And this is a great example of what I was just talking about that has to get better with Tommy Millott. He stared down the tight end. As you see a player down, is that Tommy Millott?
Roughing the passer.
I believe it is.
Defense, number 53. 15-yard penalty from the previous spot. Automatic first down.
The penalty is on the defensive lineman Caden Johnson, and Millott is still yet to rise to his feet at midfield now as he's helped up.
And Malott stood in the pressure of that pressure applied by Johnson. And Johnson just takes maybe one more step. I didn't see that anything was egregious there, but we'll keep an eye on Tommy Malott and let you know how he's doing when we come back from this break. Welcome back to Brookings, South Dakota. Let's take a look at that last interception. And this is what I was talking about, where Tommy Malott has to grow. Look at number 3, Coy Steele, underneath this route. That's where the ball should have gone. Instead, he gets locked in on Derek Snell at that next level. Obviously bracketed inside and out. Throw the ball underneath to a crossing route that's open accurately, and Coy Steele is coming out the backside with yards after the catch.
Here's Sean Austin playing quarterback now as he steps in and takes over for Malott, who was slow to get off the field on that last play. Otherwise would have been Sean Chambers, who's wearing a walking boot on the sideline. And Malott coming out for one play and is back onto the field. Bobcats haven't found the end zone since the first quarter. Malott on the scramble from 10 yards out, and he's plunked out of bounds by Isaiah Stallbird. This game, a trip to Frisco on the line, January 8th, the FCS championship game. North Dakota State already clinching their spot there yesterday with a come-from-behind win in the Fargo Dome against Incarnate Word. Montana State was in that title game last year for the first time in 38 years. Lost to the Bison by 28 points. Malott veers left to the 5. He's got room at the goal line. And Tommy Malott has a Montana State touchdown.
Tommy Malott is down after that play once again. You can see the blood on the left elbow, and he was banged up 2 plays before. Sean Austin comes in for 1 play, but that's what Tommy Malott brings to the table. The question is, can he play like that and remain healthy? This year he wasn't able to do that, and they're going to have him front and center going forward next season.
And you hope, with the way things have gone over the last couple of plays, for the remainder of this game, he can be back out there.
Yeah, he definitely has taken his lumps. This South Dakota State defense is a physical bunch. They're athletic in the secondary, and then it's that throw down to the ground right at the very end that the Montana State bench was taking exception with.
Taylor, what have you seen from Tommy Malott today?
Ridiculous toughness. That is how I would describe it. I mean, this guy, first of all, he's not even wearing sleeves. Can we acknowledge that for a second? But the hits that this guy has been taking, you know, possession after possession, and one of his teammates actually over here on the sideline when he came off offered him a jacket and he declined. I mean, this guy is a fighter.
And he's out on this snap with Austin, the redshirt freshman, back in at quarterback. Lee Van Thomas in motion. Austin running, he throws to the end zone, and it's knocked down. Stallbird with a hand on it is stalwart in the end zone, and it stays a 21-point game.
Taylor Davis talked about Tommy Malott's toughness, and there is no question about this guy being the toughest guy in the room most of the time. We got to find a way to keep him on the field. Great effort to get in the end zone there.
'Tis the season here at South Dakota State in Brookings, where the motto for the Jackrabbits today has got to be, revenge is a dish best served cold, and that is near freezing here today as they're...
It's below freezing. Just ask Taylor about that.
Feels like negative 18 here in Brookings. Montana State just getting a touchdown, denied on the 2-point conversion, down 21 with 8:08 to go. Mike Cousins, Kelly Stauffer, Taylor Davis, brave in the elements today. And here comes the onside kick try. That did not travel 10 yards, and the Jackrabbits pounce right on top of it. They take over at the Montana State 43.
Kenyon Bauer does a fantastic job of anticipating this. It's the short kick. The kicker is actually intending to recover this, but the kick receive team can touch it before the kickoff team can, and Bauer understands that. Very well coached football team on both sides, but in this case, the Yellow Jackets knew exactly what was coming. Excuse me, the Jackrabbits. Did I say Yellow Jackets, or was that just in my head?
You did, but perhaps you were thinking about a prolific rushing offense. That's what Montana State has had this year.
I was thinking the Yellow Jackets that would not be surviving in this climate currently.
Rudy Voss is in at quarterback, the sophomore from Lakefield, Minnesota. He's only thrown 2 passes this year. He's 1 for 2 through the air. That's not the ask for him here. It's hand it off and take as much time off the clock as possible.
Yeah, and stay healthy. Stay healthy up front in particular, and seemingly get out of this game and turn your attention to the team up north. I-25 about 3 hours from here.
Flag is down to the 44.
False start. Offense, number 87. 5-yard penalty. Second down.
Tight end Zach Hines, a penalty they can live with here with 7.5 to go. And you imagine some of this is also informed by the injury history for Mark Gronowski as well. They lost him first series of the national championship game last spring. They want to be as healthy as possible heading into a national championship game January 8th.
Yeah, I think that's the order of the day. And to me, Mark Gronowski has been the difference this entire season. It's a talented group that he's playing with, but that young man had to come back from an ACL. That was a nice looking pass by Rudy Voss right there. But Gronowski has been incredibly sharp today. His decision making in the run pass option game started early to his big tight end in Tucker Kraft. And certainly the payoff in the quarterback sneak. The decision making in the pass game has been good, but it's been the added hat in the run game that has been the difference. And going forward, there's the ability to expand the run game when you violently run downhill and the defense has to put extra hats into the game, and then all bets are off in the one-on-one pass game.
Voss had pressure bearing down on him. Callahan O'Reilly was in the vicinity, so that forced the back foot throw. But for Gronowski, the starter for South Dakota State at quarterback, this is a guy who makes things happen around him. He's a mechanical engineering major, and he got his professors to move his finals so that his schedule would work better with football.
Who does that?
As a sophomore, no less.
And his professors obliged, and he got his plate cleared so he could concentrate on this football game, and that work paid off.
The Jackrabbits have scored 5 touchdowns today, a field goal, and that is just their second punt of the night. They are 6 minutes, 21 seconds away from a trip to Frisco and the national championship game. College football excellence comes in all shapes and styles. Last night, North Dakota State did it by completing 1 pass in their win against Incarnate Word to go to the national title game for the 10th time since 2011. And South Dakota State appears as though they will be joining them in Frisco, Texas. SDSU, when they beat North Dakota State earlier this year, October 15th, ascended to the #1 ranking in the country, and they have not relinquished that. They've been there ever since. Sean Austin stays in at quarterback for Tommy Malott, goes to the air and throws right to the sticks on first down, completing the pass to Willie Patterson.
And that matchup against North Dakota State, and apparently South Dakota State, is a good one because South Dakota State matches up physically with North Dakota State, unlike many other teams in the country at this level in particular.
And Taylor, it was only a couple weeks ago that you saw the Bison firsthand. There was not perhaps the same optimism this year given their injury level, but here they are in the championship game again.
You know, it's a wealth of riches when you have a season like that and people are disappointed, right? But I guess that's the other side of the success coin. But Kelly, I think you nailed it. It's the parallels in, you know, athleticism and physicality. Specifically, what stands out to me is the offensive lines. Both of these offensive lines are physical, aggressive units led by veteran leaders, and then their quarterbacks both have really come into their own. And, you know, that NDSU offense, that A-gap is really their identity, but it's how they formation the offense off of it. I think it'll be a physical, run-heavy game, but I mean, a battle of the Dakotas, like what more could you ask for?
Yeah, no question. I love the thought of that matchup, and I think a lot of people were hoping for that. Certainly the people here in Brookings were hoping to get to that point and take one more step than they took last year in losing this very matchup a year ago.
On 3rd and 4, deep shot into single coverage, and it's knocked away. Looking for Coy Steele. First time they've thrown it his way on this frigid day in Brookings.
Steele goes on what's called a spray fade from the slot position. You run an outside fade route, but Cale Reeder does a really nice job of just letting the receiver tell you when the ball's coming. You don't have to panic, but because the receiver has to get the catch pocket ready, and so you break that pocket up, and Reeder did a perfect job on that play.
4th down and 4 after the incompletion. A 21-point deficit for the Bobcats. Wind at their back. It's a scramble for it. And we'll see where they mark that, and it is a first down. Taylor, I have a question for you. If you're willing to perhaps make an enemy or just give a very neutral answer here.
Goodness.
You've been to the Fargo Dome, you've been here to Brookings. Compare and contrast the atmospheres.
Okay, that is incredibly unfair because one is inside and one isn't, Mike. So, you know, a dome is never a bad thing. But that's also what I was going to say, talking about parallels for this championship matchup, the fan bases. I mean, let me tell you what, I am so impressed by the crowd that is on hand here in a record cold like we've talked about. Imagine the fans that would be here if they also had a dome, but both fan bases also are like so energized about their football. I mean, think about it. It's essentially their professional teams, right? They care so much. They're educated. There's history at these programs. Both fan bases I have thoroughly enjoyed being around.
Can you imagine trying to book a plane ticket for January 6th or January 7th from Fargo or from the airport an hour south of here?
Well, the reality is that North Dakota State starts doing that before the season
That's right.
begins.
It's
I mean,
the
they
expectation.
literally just expect to be there. They buy the tickets. They know they can sell them back to somebody if they happen not to get there. They've won 9 out of the last 12 national championships. And there's this thing called the Bison migration. And once they know they're going to Frisco, which, again, they anticipate, then you can track each other on your cell phone as everyone is traveling from Fargo down to Frisco, which they have made an annual event since the national championship game has been played there. But now South Dakota State gets to join the party. That's going to be entertaining.
Unnecessary roughness. Defense. Number 48. 15-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
The defensive end, Quentin Hicks, the senior from Wichita, called for the penalty. So while the Jackrabbits have won the last 3 in the regular season against the Bison, including 2 in Fargo, in the postseason, it has gone NDSU's way in these last 4 meetings over the last decade. Now, when South Dakota State was in the FCS title game in the spring season of 2021, their opponent there was Sam Houston State, a 23-21 victor over the Jackrabbits, who have never claimed an FCS national title. Austin can run this, and he does, to about the 12, gain of 5.
Well, and coming out of that 21 spring national championship loss, you know, they really lost that game right at the very end, 19 seconds left. So all of last season, this South Dakota State program had those shirts be 19 seconds better They go to Fargo in that semifinal game and end up losing that one 31-17, but it appears that South Dakota State is going to be able to try to get full circle January 7th in Frisco, Texas.
Taylor mentioned how great the crowd is here today, and they have been rather vocal heading into the fourth quarter. They played jump around. The building was literally shaking.
And that was literally necessary for everyone to be jumping around at that point in time to try to get that blood flowing out to the extremities again. But two very good fan bases, as Taylor Davis talked about.
And the largest crowd they've ever had here was back in 2019, north of 19,000 in a win over North Dakota State. So you can only imagine what it's going to be like trying to get your hands on a ticket to go to the title game in Frisco. And once again, Montana State facing a fourth down here on the drive with 3 minutes to go.
And South Dakota State just simply matches up well with North Dakota State in a way that a lot of teams don't. So that's why that South Dakota State can go on the road and win in the Fargo Dome earlier this year. And so the rematch in the national title game is going to be certainly something to watch.
Austin had plenty of time, but he did not throw it far enough. Coy Steele this time making the catch, only his second of the season, but he's short of the first down marker, and it's a turnover on downs. All that's left to do now is move the chains and then pack their bags for the DFW Metroplex.
And Mike, you probably have done games before where you talk to the coaches and one or the other will say, you know what, this is really a line of scrimmage game. And what they're meaning is offensive line, defensive lines of scrimmage are going to matter greatly in a game more than the next. Well, that is front and center when South Dakota State plays North Dakota State in Frisco in a few weeks.
So the revenge tour, check number 1 for beating Montana State, which they lost to last year. This is the FCS title game in the spring last year, and Gronowski gets injured on this play. He suffers a left ACL injury. It kept him out the entirety of the fall season. He learned a lot being an observer, but you can imagine how many days, how many nights he spent thinking about getting back to that stage.
Yeah, that has to be an amazing moment when the last second ticks off of this clock and Mark Gronowski knows that he gets back to that game once again, full strength, fully recovered, and is the cornerstone of what they're doing offensively behind that road grader and athletic offensive line.
Taylor?
Guys, I think it's interesting what Coach Stig told us this week, that they actually watched the post-game press conference of this game last year. He said it was their mental coach who actually encouraged them to do that, to sit down, watch the comments, and also put it aside, knowing those guys are moving on and we're a new team and a new year. I thought it was a really interesting approach. You know, sometimes coaches want to shy away from the stage and what the moment is. They embraced it. They faced it head on and used it as motivation, and now they'll be on the other side of that press conference tonight.
And Montana State will be feeling the emotions on the converse of that as well. For players, as Coach Stiglmeyer said, who have played football since they were 5 years old, it ends with a tough game. And that's how it's going to end tonight for Montana State. But for South Dakota State, that dream deferred from May of 2021, they get another crack at it.
And the jump around begins in earnest, and the emotion that we're seeing, there's so much wrapped up in that, from Mark Gronowski, this offensive line that wanted one more opportunity, this entire program that just wanted to take one more step past where they were a year ago, and here they have done it. And the Dakotas are going to be front and center in Frisco in just a few weeks for a national championship opportunity.
Brent Vigen, who was a senior at North Dakota State when John Stiglmeyer took over this South Dakota State program. His team's season comes to an end here on the road in Brookings, South Dakota. Number 1, South Dakota State has been atop FCS since the middle of October. North Dakota, South Dakota. Those two states will have a Texas takeover on January 8th.